Welcome to the Hit Show, especially my loyal listeners in the Hit Squad. Here we talk about mastering hit, honesty, integrity, and transparency, and about investing in relational capital to create influence, and then how we wield that to create opportunities to make more money. We also talk about how this relates to a balanced life enterprise and more discretionary time to do the things that you love to do. My name is Stephen Kuhn, and they call me the Hitman. And practically, I'm showing you how to reach a better quality of life. This is why I interview the people that I do, because they have it, and they can show it to you, and you can learn it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get started. Here we are, the Hit Show. Great to have you back. Thanks so much for tuning in. I've been looking forward to this particular show for a good while. Introducing my friend, and dare I say, a portion of my voice, Neil Gordon. Neil facilitates and helps influencers uncover what he calls their silver bullet. It's the silver bullet message, which is exactly why I engaged Neil, and it changed everything. It literally did, and we're going to get into this in just a moment. Neil's a former member of the editorial staff of Dutton, a division of Penguin Random House. While there, he worked with numerous New York Times bestselling authors. He has ghostwritten several books that have been published by a variety of publishers, including HarperCollins and Hay House. Been featured on national media like Ellen and Dr. Oz, and has been published in multiple languages internationally. His book proposals have secured multiple six-figure deals on behalf of his clients. Welcome, Neil. How's it going, brother?
Thank you, Stephen. It's going pretty good over here.
Yeah, where are you now? You're usually from the West Coast, and now you're on the East Coast.
I'm temporarily in New York City just for the month of May, and then I'll be heading back to the West Coast in June.
So the true entrepreneur lifestyle.
That's right. Well, that's the dream, right? You just, I feel like going to this physical location on the planet, so I'm going to.
Yeah, isn't that the way it should be? I mean, if, there's entrepreneurship, people always say, hey, let's get this out of the way. So everyone says entrepreneur, man, if you're not hustling, grinding, then you're doing something wrong. You're not an entrepreneur, that kind of thing. Me, it's the other way around. I think entrepreneur, we have the ability, hopefully, or we have the goal, a lot of us do, to do as little as possible with the most impact as possible, so we could have more discretionary time, or what I call quality of life. What do you think?
Absolutely. And yeah. I have a fun little moment that I shared with a friend this was when I was in LA actually, and we went to like a botanical garden and high tea one afternoon. And then we had to take a work break. Like we were out having a life. And so some people work all day and then take a quick rest break. And we actually were out resting and took a quick work break.
I love it. I love it. That's actually, I do that too. Like we're out in the birthday party. Oh, I got to go take a break in the car, and you do a call for 20 minutes and come back.
Right. Exactly. And
that's awesome.
Emails, whatever it is. And because we have mobile devices and all of that now, it's pretty much, it's not even just like you can physically live in different parts of the world. You can go down the street and take care of a quick work thing, right, or wherever you are. And it really is a remarkable century to be in, for sure. Well,
speaking of remarkable, let's talk about real quick what it is that you do, because I just wrote a review on your page, by the way. And I wrote, I didn't know, you don't know what you don't know. And I don't mean that in the classic sense. I mean, you don't know what you don't know about what you're not saying until you speak to Neil.
Yes.
You literally took a bunch of jargon that I thought was very clear, and you made it like the silver bullet, as you say, Right. So what's behind all that?
Right. Well, thank you for the question. What I've found, especially as I've become more and more immersed in this particular aspect of work messaging, because as my bio suggests, I have a lot of background in fleshing out whole books of content and all of that. And honestly, it's been shifting away from that more recently for the most part. And it focuses on getting incredibly clear on a very particular part of how my clients show up in the world through their messaging and how they communicate their value to others. But what I find is that nearly every single client who comes to me makes the assumption that the way to attract more people to their value, the way to attract more people to the work they're doing and to engage with them, is to provide them with information. Right. And you think about it like a speaker who says, I just got to get up on stage at this conference and give them a lot of good information. And then they're going to just want to come up afterwards. And you see a lot of presentations where it's drinking through a fire hose.
Right.
right? And just like tons and tons of information, because the more information, the more value. And then people come up with their business cards at the end. And this just isn't true. It's just not true. We're in the age of information. We're just talking about the devices in our pockets.
Right.
We have so much information right now. What we're not doing is acting on that information in a way that serves us. We're not engaging with the person who can help us most, or purchasing the program, or going to the, whatever it is that we
Right.
could do, even if it's like just sitting and meditating every day, or something that doesn't actually require engaging with another person. We're not doing it.
Right.
And so the basic assumption that people are making is that people come to a conference, or they engage in a conversation at a networking event, or do whatever they're doing because they want information. And the thing they actually want is change.
Change.
That's the underlying reason why we go and do things in the world of entrepreneurship. If we're trying to grow our business or whatever, we're trying to actually affect positive change for our business and ourselves. We might think, we say, oh, I'm just going to go to this thing. Maybe I'll get a few tips, get some good information and all of that. And it's just below the surface of that is always, my reality is one thing right now, and I want to shift it into something better.
Excellent. Well, that's probably it's true. If I think about any situation, any client, and myself, or when I go somewhere, it is because you want to change something.
Right.
Sometimes, see, that's what I mean. It's just, you make the complicated simple. I love it.
Well, and that's the thing, is that people are most likely to integrate or implement a new solution when they can act on its most basic element.
Right.
And so that's what takes us to this idea. What is it that actually compels people to act, to be empowered to create that change? And it's not the information, as we established, it's actually the belief that that change is possible for them. Right? People are empowered not by knowledge, not by that which they know is true, but rather that which they believe is possible.
Wow.
Okay. And so the job of a person, whether it's something as minor as an elevator speech, or it's a whole full-blown speech, or it's just having a conversation with somebody,
Right.
in a more informal context, the job is to do whatever we can to implant that sense of belief in the other person, so that they want to move forward. Maybe not necessarily with us.
Right. Just, yeah.
But
Right.
to empower them without any expectation of return.
Yeah.
There's a certain gentleman in Hungary who I've heard say that before.
I love it. I love it. That's the best thing about working with professionals is you get these silver bullets, you get these little morsels of excellence that somehow fall into your own sort of world. Then all of a sudden, like I've picked up, I mean, no one's original anymore. It's like, nothing's new. It's very rare that you find anything new. So you're recycling, adding, changing, it's like a Christmas tree with different bulbs on every year. It's just, and I use what we learned every day, like literally every conversation, client meetings, outside, TV, whatever I do. And I'm always thinking of that structure. So I wanted to talk about that for a second.
Sure.
It's tangible. I mean, it isn't, people think, oh, speech writing, silver bullet, I'm going to go on stage. I'll never be a speaker, but it's not just about that, is it? Like you said, it's about the daily conversations. It's about going to networking events. It's about being on TV, doing your media interviews, even talking to your wife if you want to get your message across, right? And I love what you said. It's about implanting belief. So if I'm arguing with my wife, I need to somehow implant belief in her, right? That I'm right. Now teach me that.
This is a very twisted slant on Dale Carnegie. How to win friends and influence people. You just... I don't want to start getting
no
letters from angry wives anywhere. But
no, but let's talk about the structure of it.
Yeah.
What are the simple? Or is there one structure for every speech? So what is the simple outline?
Well, I'm very happy to provide a simple structure. I also want to qualify it with something which is possibly my favorite thing to say, is that the only hard and fast rule of communications is that there are no hard and fast rules.
Okay, good.
And so I can show up and talk to you today and have like my structure and all my stuff and all of that, and it could be tremendously effective. However, there's still the possibility that the same impact could happen in a different way. This just happens to be in the context of you and I talking, and for your viewers, this is just what I offer as a way to approach
General, yeah, right.
planting this belief. And I
Right.
can start with a quick story. Is
Okay.
that I was at this conference here in New York, actually, about a week and a half ago. And the night before the conference started, a handful of us got together for a happy hour. And it was still very early in the get together. And so there was maybe 8 or 10 people, and we hadn't broken off into our own conversations. We were all having one conversation together. And so the ringleader of the happy hour just put me on the spot and said, "So Neil, what do you do?" And I took a moment just to pause for a second, like, okay, this is what I teach people. I better do this right. And so what most people, when they're giving an elevator speech, do is that they just launch in, well, here's what I do. I do this, and I do that, and I do that, and I do that, and I do that. But effective communication values the recipient over the sender. Okay. When we say something on any level, if we want to influence people, if we want people to be with us, we have to find ways to, I have to catch myself. I said, we have to, we don't, it's not dogmatic and the only hard and fast rule, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So I even need to catch myself and because this is a work in progress forever. Yeah. But what I encourage us to do is shape our communications, even in casual conversations, around how it can positively impact the other person, and they're more likely to align with us.
Right.
So I made that. So I basically said so I started with my elevator speech, right? I started it rather than saying, here's the things that I do, and I work with speakers and I work with authors and blah, blah, blah. And I said, as influencers, we want to attract more people to our work, to our message. But what people mostly do is just prattle on about their own stuff, and they make it about themselves. And then I said, but effective communication values the recipient over the sender. And I said that right then and there. Now notice, at no point yet have I actually talked about what I do. And then a funny thing happened. My elevator speech got completely derailed because all of a sudden everyone lit up at this idea of, oh yeah, effective communication values the recipient over the sender. And they all started talking about it. I'm like, oh, hi guys. Yeah. It was the funniest thing. Eventually I got to tell them more about what I did, because then they finally circled back. It's like, so wait, what do you actually do? I don't think you told us. It's like, no, I didn't. And it was really funny, because that was what you've already mentioned in our conversation today, is what we could call a silver bullet, which is this one sentence recipe for everything else we do. And so when I presented my so-called elevator speech, well, let me back up. People call it an elevator pitch.
Right.
Usually, right? And the pitch has a lot of weight to it in my mind, in that we're here to pitch ourselves. We're here to sell others on our value. But an elevator speech is just me taking an idea and presenting it to them for their consumption, so that they can, like that just happened in that happy hour, they all started processing it and thinking about things in a different way, and just trying to say it in their own words and integrate it and all of that. And so what that ultimately represented was, to circle back to your original question about a structure, none of that was an accident. Right. What I started with, it's basically a 4-part structure. What I started with was the problem that the people we're talking to have an investment in solving. Okay. What we want to start with is a problem that they care about solving, because people are most likely to integrate a new solution when it's presented within the context of a problem they care about solving. Okay. And so people, when they wake up in the morning, they aren't thinking about our solutions, our stuff. Right. I mean, in the case of your work, how many people woke up this morning and said, I really need to think more about how honesty, integrity, and transparency shows up in my life? I mean, I'm pretty sure they woke up thinking about, man, I have really poor cash flow for my business this month. I need to find some clients and fast. Or I have a marketing funnel and it was working great, and then yesterday it fell apart. Or outside of entrepreneurship, like, man, I have my in-laws coming in this weekend and I don't want to deal with them. Or I need to lose 20 pounds and I can't seem to get it off. Whatever it is, people are thinking about their problems. Right. And what we do with an elevator pitch is we just talk about our solutions rather than something they care about solving. So the first component is to start talking about a problem that your audience either immediately relates to or could understand as being a thing on some level. The second part is usually just as overlooked, because we're looking to plant a belief in people's minds that something is possible, that change is possible. And what can help with that is the typical conventional wisdoms, typical solutions about what other people will do to solve this problem. Like going out to a networking event, like, because you talk a lot about networking, right? And people just try to hit them with all sorts of stuff about what they do, and then try to press them for referrals and all of that. I've been to networking events where I felt I needed a shower afterward.
Yeah, completely.
It's just like people are so obsessed with their own stuff.
And a wheelbarrow to carry all the business cards.
Right, exactly. And so this is a typical way that people go about attracting people. Is that you go to a networking event, you slam everyone you can with your business cards, you try to get, so you know anyone who needs some help or whatever. And that's the typical way to do it. And you can agitate people's frustration with the problem you've already established in the first part with like, oh yeah, that doesn't work. Ugh, God, I hate that. Right. So then you set them up with what I call the silver bullet, which is that one sentence recipe. So effective communication values the recipient over, I've had a bunch of them in our conversation already today. Effective communication values the recipient over the sender. People are empowered not by that which they know is true, but rather that which they believe is possible. It's a cause and effect sentence. It's like when you take this single action, you get this single outcome. And my favorite example of that is The Art of War, where he says, all of warfare is deception. In one sentence, he condenses all of his stuff down to a single statement that people could, in theory, walk away with. And just like I said in my story, in the thing, people were like, oh, wow, yeah. And they had the light bulb moment, the aha moment. And it just led to all of that. And then the fourth part is, of course, what you do. So to realize that idea, what I do is I help people do blah, 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 blah. And so you could do.
Lost your audio. Yeah.
Okay, I think you can hear me now. It kicks me off every once in a while.
That's all right.
People can have a very powerful elevator speech in like 30 seconds.
Right.
You can do a 4-sentence speech. You could do it for a minute or 2 minutes or even a 3 or 10-minute speech or what have you. But when you have those 4 components, it doesn't take very long at all just to.
I do something similar. As you know, I do the problem product resolution. So what's the problem? What's the product? What's the resolution? But the problem was always the problem that I solve, and it wasn't their problem. And which is conflicting with everything I say, because we're always talking about solving the client's problem. But if you're in a networking event and you have, X amount of people there, and it's not necessarily like an event for pipeline engineers, you don't know what they do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you want to listen to them, talk to them, and then find a solution or a problem that they know in their niche and their business or whatever. Okay, yeah, that changes a bit.
Yeah.
But for me, in general, I can literally say almost any in a business, I can solve one of their problems. When it comes to so I'm very lucky in that case. But when it comes to someone who's an IT specialist or something, and then you have I don't know, you have an art director from the GQ magazine, standing there. This guy's like, maybe it might be difficult to get that across. No.
Well, I would imagine, we have to look at this in terms of what the other person's day-to-day experience of life is. Because an art director works at a company, and they know when their Microsoft Outlook isn't working, or they know when the network is down, or they know how difficult it sometimes is to facilitate procedures. The last time I had a corporate job, which was a long, long time ago now, I actually went and visited with IT because it's like, we need a better way to share files. And I'm an editorial guy. I shouldn't have been talking about that, but I was going nuts. And so if you're talking as an IT guy to an art director, you could say, so you work at a company, right? Yeah. And so let's say this guy has developed a particularly impactful way to reorganize a shared file system. Let's say that's his thing. So have you ever been bogged down by all of the emails from all the different people with attachments?
I love it.
And it's just like, and you constantly have to send things to people again, can you
Right.
send me the file and all of that? And it's like, oh my God, I hate that.
Yeah.
My job would be so much easier if I couldn't do that. Right. Well, that's what typically happens.
Right.
People, they do the files and they do the thing and all that. But the reason for that is that people are not creating a common language for how to share content in an infrastructure. And so, and they could talk about, I mean, obviously you need to be as.
No, but that was like really good. That actually
Yeah.
was, Jesus, that's really good.
So you're just shaping your value in the context of their experience. And they're not necessarily going to want to hire an IT person,
Right.
but they are just so excited about how valuable you are. And then you talk a lot about radiant value,
Right.
which is a concept I really love and have embraced myself. And how much more radiant value can you create when you have shown other people how change is possible, even in just half a minute.
True. Wow. Incredible stuff. Wow. I mean, this is, I mean, even though we work together, I'm just getting loads of information, see me taking notes and everything. I just want to remind everyone you're listening to The Hit Show with Stephen Kuhn, and we're here with the fabulous Neil Gordon and his silver bullet secrets. All right. Does everyone have a message?
It's a really good question. I've found that this process that I go through with people lends itself best to situations where people are disrupting the way others typically solve a problem. So if a person is an employee and they're pretty much low on the totem pole and their whole life is just doing their job as people tell them to do it, then that's less likely it's possible the founders of the company have a message.
Mm-hmm.
And if there are certain managers in upper management who have their own unconventional way of managing their employees and that isn't a company-wide thing, that's just their own approach or
Right.
something like that, then they have a message. But I do find that it's usually the people who are somehow disrupting the way others solve a problem
problems.
that winds up being the anchor for having this kind of fluidity. There are shades of gray in all of this, right?
Right. Of course. There's no absolute.
The only hard and fast rule solution
Right.
communication that there are no hard and
I
fast.
love it. Problem solving disruptor. That's like almost a title.
Yeah.
I can see that coming out soon. Well, they have marketing disruptors and they have, all these, they have this disruptor is that word that everyone uses now, but I've never heard of problem solving disruptor. I love it. Makes you think.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So all of this, right? When we went through the process, it was very easy and flowing. I mean, you sent me notes. I had to learn them and try to figure out the structure and stuff. And for someone like me, who's a free flowing, I hate notes. I hate all that stuff.
Right.
It took a while for me to get used to the structure, but now when I'm in interviews or speaking or out, I catch myself going, use that, use that, the suspense, especially the suspense part where you tell part of a story and then you go into the specifics of I'd say the mechanics of it, and then you come back with an answer or the solution to that story and stuff. Or you ask them a question, well, how do you think I solved it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's, people think maybe that's a presentation skill, but it's literally a great conversation skill. Like you just said, you say something, people talk about it, and then they come back to you. Fantastic. Yeah. Because you're empowering them to be a part of your conversation instead of you just talking. Like you said, information overload.
This becomes noise.
Yeah. I love it. And of course, honesty, integrity, transparency fits right in there. You want to be honest. And especially when you're a disruptor, start using that word. When you're a disruptor, that's brutally honest sometimes. And then the transparency part of it, you have to be transparent because of that, just, because you're disrupting.
Yeah.
So it fits right in with HIT.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I really I had actually, when thinking about our work together and how you've influenced me, I was thinking very recently about how integrity and the honesty and transparency fits in, because one of the things I see a lot in selling from the stage type of gurus and people who talk a lot about how to influence from the stage so as to convert people and all of that, is what a lot of them do is that they might have 5 principles,
right,
or 5 things, 5 components of their stuff, like a framework or an acronym or something like that. And what they'll do from the stage is provide maybe 2 of them, and then say, if you want the other 3, you have to buy from it, right? And I'm sure, I mean, I know that works actually. I know that people do want to buy because they have gotten some value from the first two things. What I find though is that, for me at least, and because integrity is a pretty relative thing because people experience the world in their own way, but my experience of that is that I'm cutting them off, and I could just tell them the other three things and it would take me a minute, and even if I'm not going in depth, I could just do that. And so I feel far more aligned with providing not just two of my five things, but what's the underlying ingredient that defines all five things.
Love it.
I provide them with the recipe. And again, like in that happy hour, people are already working on it and they have the aha moment and all of that. And when you provide this cause and effect sentence, the silver bullet like sentence at some point in a speech or in some aspect of your content, maybe a webinar or something like that, you're providing them with the most valuable part of your entire message. It's the essence. It's the thing. It's like essential oil is so potent that if you put it directly on your skin, it's going to burn the skin.
Right.
And so you give them the thing in your speech or some other aspect of your work that burns the skin. It's that powerful. And then they're going to need more of your stuff, your information. Like I might provide them with the silver bullet, like people are empowered not by that which they know is true, but rather that which they believe is possible. But then they would need to engage with me to get the 4-part structure on how to maximize that belief. And so I feel completely in my integrity in that approach to it because I'm giving them the best stuff.
And that's what it's all about. There isn't, like you said, there's no absolute when it comes to that. Some people don't feel comfortable giving everything. They're still in a little bit of scarcity mindset. It's real simple for me. I can stand in front of 100 people, have a book in my hand that says, this will help you make $1 million. Matter of fact, I did it on stage. So I said, if you send this, who here likes to make money? Everyone raised their hand, right? Who here would, if I had a solution for you to make money today, would you sign up for that? Everyone raised their hand, right? So I said, send a text message to this number, right? And you will receive a downloadable PDF to show you 8 ways to make money today. Right? Not even 20%. Not even 20% who just said yes, send a text message. So I looked at I pretended that I had like an immediate readout and I said, okay, guys, let's try this again, right? And that was my point about taking action. So when you give value, right? When you give value, people take that value, might not even use it. They like, oh, it's great. And then they go about their day and their cat pees on a rug and then they forget everything. It's like it's gone.
Yeah.
So people who have that scarcity mindset and hold back, they're missing one key ingredient that I believe is more important than the value itself. And that's the radiant value. Because that radiant value drives more clients to me than direct.
Right.
Literally. It drives more clients. I heard about you and I saw this thing, or a friend of mine, and I get so many calls from strangers that I've never met through the radiant value because of the massive value that we try to create for every person that we interact with. So you're right. And for me, that's all about integrity. If I know something, I can help you. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to make you pay for it.
Right.
Whether you take action, that's up to you.
Right. Because the concept around radiant value is anchored by social proof.
Yep.
It's anchored by, I just talked to this amazing guy. Yep. It's not you telling that person that you're amazing. It's the other person telling that person that you're amazing. And it creates so much more value.
Exactly. And we used to have this thing when I was in sales, which I thought I was great at because it was all structured. It turns out I wasn't. I mean, I was as far as numbers go, but nowadays it's all different. Is if you say it, it's not true. If they say it, it's true.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I can say the same thing as the client, but if the client says that he believes it, and if I say it, it's like, it's just a sales guy. Exactly. And that's the radiant value concept, is let someone else say it.
And it also, you just use the word believe.
Yeah.
That becomes a very important part of how we do so. And that's when our honesty, integrity, and transparency becomes incredibly important, because with the Peter Parker thing, right? With great power comes great responsibility. If you're not showing up in your integrity, but still use these kinds of tools to convey value, I mean, you could do a lot of damage. It really, I mean, I like using the Art of War example for the silver bullet, because he used the silver bullet, not that he necessarily was thinking about it in those terms 2,500 years ago. It was like, oh yeah, he's a thought leader.
There's this guy.
Yeah, no, but he used that concept to lead to the deaths of many, many people in the 2,500 years since. There's been a lot of destruction around the art of war.
Yeah.
And I like taking his example, turning it on its end, and using it as a way to have a positive impact in the world with just as much charge and power and all of that. And so, but it still is upon us to show up in our integrity so that we are influencing people and having a positive impact on them.
Yeah, indeed, man. I love it. I mean, we hit it off. I mean, our messages and the way we believe, the way we work. And especially, I love the story you told me the other day when you had one of your clients come to you with a conundrum. Maybe you could tell that story about radiant value.
Right. Yes. Okay. Thank you. And so a friend of mine and client, actually, I engaged with her with my services, but also we are friends as well. And we were going for a walk, and there was an opportunity for her to refer. She was going to have somebody on her podcast, and there was this opportunity to have someone else listen to the episode or something like that. I mean, there was just like a lot of different layers to the thing, and she wasn't sure if there was a possibility of the people she connected perhaps working together instead of working with her. And the conversation we had, as based on what you and I had talked about and what you had taught me about radiant value, was that, well, you could connect, if you connected them and let's say they engage together for a $15,000 contract or something like that, you're the person who was the catalyst for that, and you are suddenly associated in this incredibly positive way, and it can completely change their lives. And then they're going to be thinking, how did that, oh yeah, that was an amazing thing. And how much more evangelical are they going to be about your value in the world, regardless of what you do, but especially in relation to your expertise, and then move forward. And so we were walking along, and you can sense like heaviness when thinking about scarcity and all of that, and it's just like the fear that comes up around scarcity. And I just felt everything just settle down right next to her. Like all of a sudden it was a different walk, and she frankly became a different person. And it's just like she couldn't wait to help everyone involved.
Amazing.
And it just was a beautiful moment. I was actually quite grateful to have witnessed it. I was grateful that you taught me about that, so that I could.
The reason I'm saying this is because I don't get those kind of stories. Like you're involved so close, it's normal. But when you hear it from someone radiant, well, like double radiant, I guess you could call it, you and then her, it's like, wow, that's two people separated. Now the third and the fourth person as well that she's going to help also separated. And that all came from a discussion that we had.
Yeah.
And it's just, if that's not powerful in your world, then I'm sorry, man. You know what I mean? It's like, you have to see that as powerful. It's not that thing that hey, Neil, buy my stuff. Thank you. Bye. That's one way. That's part of it, of course, but creating that radiant value, creating that ripple effect that goes out and keeps driving more and more and more. It's something that I'm quite proud of. And you helped me solidify the thoughts in my head on how to communicate that. And one of the things that happened is, I have a partner, Lane Balone, and he's a millennial. So he's 30, I'm 52, and we get along great. I think it's because I just never grew up. And he's very articulate as well. So he thinks very clear, and as well as you, not as well as me. And you got that right. Yeah. So when we were talking about my silver bullet of being the hitman, means showing up wholly and fully with no expectations to create solutions that I may not even have until that moment of showing up without expectations, right? Because that creates the mastermind between the two of us or the three of us, whoever it is.
Right.
And what we ended up finding out is what you do when you do that is you create a space, almost like a vacuum of just massive opportunity. And what we found out, we were in Peru, we did our retreat, and we were working with a bunch of different guys. And when they step into that space, they sort of adopt your belief. They adopt your belief in them as whatever it is that they're searching for.
Yeah.
It had immediate impact, which is the name of my company, which is sort of cool. But the immediate impact in their lives and in their process they were going through. And it's like, wow, man. And it's the only reason I have that picture in my head of stepping into a space and creating a space is because of the silver bullet that we went through. Otherwise, it was just another sort of thing that I did that I couldn't really explain,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So that for me was probably the most powerful thing that we wrote. That was so powerful because it's who I am. It's not what I say, right? It's actually who I, like you said, what does a person do in the world? Like, I don't know how you said it, but you basically said you find the silver bullet isn't just about what you say, it's about who you are, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's so powerful.
Your underlying belief.
Yeah, there you go. That's what you said. Yeah.
This is your belief about how to attract others to your value. And right. Yeah. So your silver bullet, I'm paraphrasing a little bit now, but it's like you will attract others to your value when you commit yourselves wholly and completely to serving them in that moment.
Right. That was
that commitment. Yeah. Right. Like, and so it has so much charge in it that it helped you to express your unique value to others. And if I understand correctly, it's actually impacted how, like, your bottom line in certain ways.
Completely.
And it also helped me to think, oh, Stephen says, when I was talking to my friend, and basically I was able to encourage her to commit herself wholly and completely to the other people she was talking about.
Yeah. Amazing.
So it's a really lucid thing right there.
And it's just, it's the right thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, it is. And that's the cool thing about it is you don't go in with preconceived notions or solutions that you already have in a box that you can fit. It completely depends on that space between the both of you, what happens, or the group and you, or whatever it is. Yeah. And so, man, I mean, I can't even tell you how thankful I am for that. That just literally, I feel almost euphoric when I talk about it, because it's so clear in my mind now, and it's so much of who I am that it just makes so much sense to me, and it feels great rolling off the tongue, and people understand it clearly, whereas before they're like, oh, what do you mean? You know, that kind of stuff, you know? So I really appreciate that. Not to, get off on a tangent, but it just had so much impact in my life. And it's funny because you go to development seminars, you go to, you read books and all audio and all this stuff, and no one, and not anywhere, and no matter what books I've read, and there's quite a few behind me plus more online, gave me that simple solution for that message. Nobody. So if there's anybody out there watching that needs a message, get old Neil. I'm not kidding. This is you can tell by the honesty in my voice, the tone of my voice, that I'm seriously excited about. And it didn't happen yesterday. It happened 6 months ago, 5 months ago, right? Something
like, I think it was the end of 2018 when we first.
Right. So, and it's just, and it's still every day. Yeah. So when you can live your message, I don't think there's much more powerful out there that you can actually, your message is your life.
Yeah, it really does help us to solidify our purpose.
Yeah.
People talk a lot about purpose as to why they do what they do. And I'm not minimizing the power and importance of that at all, because this whole thing is about the impact that we have on others.
Right.
What this particular exercise helps us to clarify is not just why we do what we do, but why we do what we do in the way we do it.
We do it.
It's like you said earlier, everything has been said, but at the same time, your job isn't to be original. Your job is to serve the person in front of you and have a positive impact on the world. And so if you get rid of your own ego and say, how can I show up for them? Oh, I'll give them this essential truth that they can take and run with on their own. Or if they want my help, I can give it.
Wow, that just blows the lid off a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. I think authenticity or originality, it's an overused word, but I think authenticity comes from believing in what you say and actually living it. So part of the silver bullet is it creates that authenticity, just like HIT creates authenticity, because I'm not trying to do anything. And for me, that's what authenticity means. I'm not trying to be something or somebody. And if I'm creating value for someone and solving their problem or finding a way to give them a solution that maybe isn't mine, that's still, for me, it might not be original, but it's definitely authentic, because you're doing it out of the purpose of doing good, right? I mean, that's how I see it. Yeah. Okay. So I had to clarify that in my own head. It's like, wait a second, do I have to change my message again?
No.
Just kidding.
You're doing great.
Man, this has been awesome. Wow, we're coming to the end already. So let's hear where we can find you. It'll be in the show notes anyway, but let's hear where we can find you and what you have to offer right now.
Yeah, so you can find me at neilcanhelp.com, Neil.
Yeah.
And obviously you can look around and see all of that. You'll find a free training on silver bullets as a CTA right away on the homepage and all of
That's
that.
how you got me.
And there you go.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of other things that you can find on there as well. And yeah, I think that's probably the best way for people to take next steps if they'd like to learn more.
Okay. And what's one thing you say to everybody who's on the fence? Like, I don't know, Neil, what's one thing you say to them?
I suppose it ultimately comes down to thinking about the person who your work is meant to serve and thinking about how they've woken up that morning and the kind of things that are haunting them.
Wow.
And knowing that if they came to your stuff and you took their needs seriously and you showed up for them and created a message around that so as to incite that sense of belief and compel them to take action with you, how are they going to go to bed that night when they realize that their problem is going to be solved?
Boom. Jesus.
You actually want that for them.
I want to sign up again. Perfect. Honest, man, perfect, brother. I love it. I love it. Well, man, thank you so much for being on. True pleasure.
For having this. A lot of fun as always, Stephen.
Stick around. We're gonna end the recording here. Just to the Hit Squad. Look, Hit Squad. You guys are important to me. I think you really know that. You just heard from Neil and how you can drastically improve your communication, and not just communication, but solidify your purpose. Right in the spoken word. I'm living proof of it happening and actually changing my life, the communication, the way I work, my partnerships, everything. It changed everything. You're everything to me, Hit Squad. I want you to be successful. So I hope you listen to Neil closely and drop him a line if you have any questions. It's super important. Neil, again, thank you so much for being on. And everyone else, until next time, we will see you. And that one thing we always say, it has more meaning than ever before. It's all about quality of life. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.